You think you're some kind of hero, huh? Walking in here like you belong? Vince the Viper Malone sneered, his voice slicing through the lively chatter of the rusty anchor. The dimly lit bar, usually filled with the hum of conversation and clinking glasses, fell into a heavy silence. Every eye was fixed on the intense showdown unfolding at the corner table. Jake Lawson stood his ground, his broad frame tense yet composed. His calm exterior masked the turmoil beneath, memories of battles fought, friends lost, and a longing for peace. "I don't want any trouble," he replied steadily, locking eyes with Vince's piercing gaze. But Vince wasn't done. "You don't look like any soldier I've ever seen. No proper salute, no battlefield stories. What's your real story, man?" The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Jake took a deliberate sip of his water, his mind racing with thoughts of home, his mother's warm smiles, his niece's excited chatter, and the simple life he yearned to return to. "It's mine," he said quietly. "Earned it." Before Vince could retort, another biker, Rick, let out a mocking laugh. "Bet he's never seen real combat, probably scared of a little confrontation." The group's jeers echoed, pushing the atmosphere to a boiling point. Jake's eyes swept the room, feeling the weight of every stare, some filled with judgment, others with curiosity. He knew this moment could spiral out of control, but years of training had ingrained in him the ability to remain composed under pressure. "I'm just here to unwind," he stated firmly, hoping to defuse the situation. But Vince wasn't done. With a sudden, aggressive move, he lunged forward, attempting to grab Jake by the collar. Time seemed to slow as Jake reacted instinctively. In one swift motion, he sidestepped the attack, expertly twisting Vince's arm behind his back and pinning him against the table. "Don't push me," Jake warned, his voice low and authoritative. The jukebox fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of the men involved. The other bikers froze, their bravado fading into uncertainty. "What are you going to do about it?" Vince spat, his voice cracking with a mix of anger and fear. Jake's eyes hardened as he met Vince's gaze. "I've faced tougher challenges than you," he replied, his tone unwavering. The room seemed to hold its breath, the tension palpable. Just then the door swung open again, and two police officers entered the bar, their presence immediately silencing the room. Officer Daniels, a tall man with a stern expression, approached the scene, followed by Officer Ramirez, whose calm yet observant demeanor contrasted sharply with Daniels' rigidity. "We got a call about a disturbance," Daniels announced, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. "What's going on here?" Vince, still clutching his arm, was the first to speak. "This guy here assaulted me. He's some kind of fake soldier, wearing a fake uniform." Officer Ramirez stepped closer, glancing at Jake. "Is that true, sir?" Jake nodded slowly, maintaining eye contact. "No, officer. I'm a real soldier. I was just trying to enjoy my evening." Ramirez motioned towards Jake's duffel bag lying on the floor nearby. "Do you have any proof of your service?" Jake reached for the bag, pulling out his uniform adorned with badges and insignias. "Here you go. My ID, wallet, everything." Officer Daniels inspected the uniform briefly before turning to Ramirez. "Looks legitimate. We appreciate your cooperation." Vince glared at Jake, his pride visibly wounded. "You're just going to take his word for it? He could have faked all that." Ramirez gave Vince a stern look. "Enough. From what I've seen, you initiated this confrontation. False accusations are a serious matter." The tension began to dissolve as the bikers, seeing their leader cornered, started to back down. Vince muttered under his breath, "This isn't over," before the group quietly left the bar, their earlier confidence shattered. As the officers departed, Officer Ramirez turned to Jake. "Good handling of the situation. Stay safe." Jake nodded, taking a deep breath. The bar slowly returned to its usual rhythm, the patrons whispering among themselves, some with newfound respect for the man who had stood his ground. "What did you think of Jake's reaction?" "Drop a 2 feet in the comments if you found him inspiring, or a 7 feet if you didn't. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more gripping tales from elderly wisdom. We can't wait to hear your thoughts below. Jake Lawson walked out of the Rusty Anchor feeling a mix of relief and lingering tension. The evening's confrontation still weighed heavily on his mind, but he was determined to leave it behind and focus on the peace he so desperately sought. As he climbed into his old truck, the familiar scent of worn leather and gasoline greeted him, grounding him in the present moment. Driving home through the quiet streets of Atlanta, Jake reflected on the events at the bar. Why did they react that way, he pondered. After everything I've been through, why the hostility? His thoughts were interrupted by the honk of his horn as he approached his modest neighborhood. Parking in his driveway, Jake stepped out of the truck and made his way to the front porch, the cool night air a welcome contrast to the heated confrontation earlier. Inside, his home was a sanctuary of simplicity and warmth. The soft glow of a lamp illuminated the cozy living room, where family photos adorned the walls, memories of happier times. Jake was greeted by the comforting sounds of his wife, Maria, humming softly as she prepared dinner in the kitchen. "Hey, hon," Maria called out with a smile, noticing the weariness in Jake's eyes. "How was your evening?" Jake forced a smile, stepping into the kitchen to embrace her. "It was eventful," he replied, his voice tinged with fatigue. "Had a bit of a run in at the Rusty Anchor." Maria's expression shifted to concern as she handed him a glass of water. "Do you want to talk about it?" Jake nodded, taking a sip before sitting down at the kitchen table. "A group of bikers started harassing me because of my uniform. They didn't believe I was a real soldier. It escalated quickly, but I managed to handle it without things getting out of hand." Maria reached across the table, placing her hand gently on his. "I'm proud of you for staying calm, but are you okay?" Before Jake could respond, their teenage daughter, Lily, entered the kitchen, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Hey, Dad, how was school today?" Jake glanced at her, his heart warming at her innocent presence. "It was good, Lily. Just a bit tired from the evening." Lily plopped down beside him, pulling out her phone. "You should tell me more about the Rusty Anchor thing. It sounds intense." Jake chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. "Maybe another time, sweetheart. Right now I just want to enjoy dinner with the family." As they began their meal, the comforting routine of family life provided a temporary respite from the earlier tension. Yet, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the encounter at the bar was just the beginning of something more significant. The following morning, Jake woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of Maria humming in the kitchen. He stretched, feeling the remnants of yesterday's stress still lingering. Determined to move forward, he decided to focus on routine tasks, tending to his small garden and working on his truck, finding solace in the familiar motions. As he tightened a bolt under the hood, his phone buzzed with a message notification. Picking it up, Jake saw a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Tonight. The Rusty Anchor." His heart skipped a beat. Was it another confrontation, or perhaps someone seeking closure? He debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of him. Maybe it's time to address this once and for all, he thought. That evening, Jake felt a mix of apprehension and resolve as he approached the Rusty Anchor once more. The neon lights flickered above, casting their familiar glow on the exterior. He pushed open the door, the same creaky sound welcoming him back into the bustling atmosphere. Inside, the bar was lively, with patrons enjoying their drinks and conversations flowing freely. Jake scanned the room, looking for any sign of the sender. His eyes settled on a familiar face, Tom, one of the bikers from the previous night. Tom was alone, nursing a beer at the far end of the bar, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Jake took a deep breath and made his way over, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. As he approached, Tom looked up, surprise evident in his eyes. "Jake," Tom began hesitantly, "thanks for coming." Jake nodded, taking a seat beside him. "You wanted to talk?" Tom sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Yeah, after what happened last night, I've been thinking a lot about it. I realized we were out of line. Jake listened quietly, the tension slowly easing from his shoulders. I appreciate you reaching out. It's important to address these things. Tom looked down, ashamed. I never knew you were a real soldier. I let our group's prejudices cloud my judgment. I'm sorry for how we treated you. Jake placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. Apology accepted. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong. Tom nodded, a hint of relief washing over his face. I want to make things right. Maybe we can start fresh? Jake smiled softly. That's a good start. It's never too late to change. As they spoke, the atmosphere around them seemed to lighten, the initial hostility replaced by a mutual understanding. The other bikers, observing the interaction, began to lower their guards, some even approaching to offer their own apologies. Later that week, Jake found himself attending a community meeting at the local community center. The topic of discussion was fostering better relationships and understanding among diverse groups in the neighborhood. Inspired by his recent experience, Jake decided to share his story, hoping it could help bridge gaps and encourage dialogue. As he spoke about the confrontation at the Rusty Anchor and the subsequent apology from Tom, he noticed nods of agreement and understanding from the audience. Maria sat proudly in the front row, while Lily listened intently, her eyes wide with admiration for her father. After the meeting, several community members approached Jake, thanking him for his honesty and courage. Your story really resonated with me, one woman said. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in breaking down barriers. Another man nodded in agreement. It takes strength to stand up against prejudice and to seek reconciliation. You've set a great example. Jake felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that his actions were making a positive impact. Maybe this is exactly what I needed, he thought. A way to channel my experiences into something meaningful. As the weeks went by, Jake became more involved in community initiatives, working alongside former adversaries to create programs that promoted understanding and unity. The Rusty Anchor, once a place of tension, transformed into a venue for open dialogue and community events, fostering connections that had previously seemed impossible. One evening, as Jake was closing up the community center, Tom approached him with a hopeful expression. We've been talking, and we're organizing a charity bike ride to support veterans like you. Would you be interested in participating? Jake felt a surge of emotion, touched by the gesture. I'd be honored, he replied, shaking Tom's hand firmly. Let's make a difference together. As the charity bike ride day approached, the community buzzed with excitement and anticipation. The event aimed to raise awareness and funds for veterans struggling to reintegrate into civilian life, providing them with resources and support networks. Jake took on a leadership role, coordinating volunteers and sharing his story to motivate others to join the cause. On the morning of the event, the sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the gathering crowd. Bikers of all kinds assembled, their engines revving in unison, symbolizing unity and purpose. Jake stood at the front, addressing the participants with heartfelt sincerity. Today isn't just about riding bikes, he began, his voice steady and confident. It's about coming together as a community to support those who have served and sacrificed for us. Let's make this a day to remember, not just for the miles we cover, but for the bonds we build. The ride commenced, the group moving steadily through the scenic routes of Atlanta, their spirits high and their hearts united. Along the way, Jake encountered familiar faces, both old friends and new allies, each contributing to the event's success. As the day progressed, the sense of camaraderie and mutual respect grew stronger. Conversations flowed freely, stories were shared, and laughter filled the air. The barriers that once separated the community began to crumble, replaced by understanding and empathy. At the finish line, Jake was met with cheers and applause. Maria and Lily stood proudly by his side, their smiles reflecting the day's achievements. Among the crowd, Tom approached with a group of bikers, all wearing shirts emblazoned with the event's logo. We did it, Jake, Tom said, his voice filled with pride. This is just the beginning. Jake nodded, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. Absolutely. Together, we can make a real difference. In the weeks that followed, the success of the charity bike ride set the foundation for ongoing community projects. The Rusty Anchor became a hub for regular meetings, workshops, and social events aimed at fostering inclusivity and support. Jake continued to play an active role, his efforts inspiring others to contribute and participate. One evening, as Jake was reflecting on the journey so far, Maria joined him on the porch, a serene smile on her face. "You've done something incredible here, Jake. Watching the community come together like this, it's truly inspiring." Jake looked out at the horizon, the setting sun casting a golden hue over the neighborhood. "I couldn't have done it without the support of everyone around me. It's been a journey of healing and understanding, not just for me, but for all of us." Maria leaned against him, her presence a comforting reminder of the love and strength that fueled his determination. "And there's so much more to come. The future looks bright." As the night settled in, Jake felt a deep sense of contentment. The battles he had fought were no longer just his own. They had become shared struggles that united the community in their pursuit of harmony and acceptance. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but with the support of those around him, he felt ready to face whatever came his way. The morning sun bathed the community center in a warm golden light, signaling the start of a new day filled with promise. Jake Lawson arrived early, his mind buzzing with the excitement and anticipation surrounding the upcoming charity bike ride. The success of the initial event had ignited a spark of hope within him and the community, and today was about to take that spark and turn it into a blazing fire of unity and support. Inside the bustling community center, volunteers were setting up booths, arranging banners, and preparing refreshments for participants and attendees. The air was filled with the hum of activity and the scent of freshly baked goods from the volunteer kitchen. Jake moved through the room, offering words of encouragement and coordinating last-minute details with the organizers. Tom stood beside him, wearing a bright smile that contrasted with his earlier hesitations. "Everything's looking great, Jake. I can't believe how far we've come since that night at the Rusty Anchor." Jake nodded, feeling a swell of pride. "It's amazing what a little understanding and effort can do. Let's make sure today goes even better." As the day progressed, the community center transformed into a hub of energy and collaboration. Local businesses donated supplies, artists offered to create live murals symbolizing unity, and former adversaries worked side by side to ensure every aspect of the event was flawless. The Rusty Anchor, once a place of tension, now served as the backdrop for a celebration of newfound friendships and mutual respect. At noon, the event officially kicked off with a heartfelt speech from Jake. Standing at the podium, he looked out over the crowd, his eyes meeting those of his family, friends, and neighbors who had come together to support the cause. "Thank you all for being here today," Jake began, his voice steady and sincere. "This bike ride isn't just about raising funds for our veterans. It's about building bridges within our community. We've shown that despite our differences, we can come together to support one another and create positive change." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the hall and spilling out onto the streets. Bikers of all backgrounds mounted their bikes, engines revving in unison, symbolizing the unity and purpose driving them forward. As the ride commenced, Jake led the group through the scenic routes of Atlanta, the cityscape blending seamlessly with patches of greenery and open spaces. Along the way, participants stopped at various checkpoints where volunteers shared stories of veteran struggles and triumphs, fostering a deeper connection between riders and the cause they were supporting. Halfway through the ride, an unexpected challenge arose. Heavy rain began to pour, turning the roads slick and muddy. The riders slowed, their spirits momentarily dampened by the sudden downpour. Jake glanced up at the darkened skies, the rain cascading in sheets around him. "We can't let this stop us," he called out over the sound of the storm. "We've come too far to turn back now. Let's keep moving and show what we're made of." Encouraged by Jake's unwavering determination, the group pressed on, their camaraderie growing stronger with each mile. The rain, instead of breaking their spirit, became a testament to their resilience and commitment to the cause. As the sun began to set, casting a fiery glow across the horizon, the riders approached the final stretch of the bike ride. The finish line was adorned with banners celebrating unity and support for veterans, the culmination of hours of effort and collaboration. Jake crossed the finish line first, his heart pounding with a mix of exhaustion and elation. He was greeted by cheers and applause from the crowd, the sense of accomplishment washing over him. Maria and Lily rushed to his side, their faces beaming with pride. "We did it, Dad," Lily exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "You were amazing out there." Maria smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've inspired so many, Jake. This is just the beginning." As the evening settled in, the community gathered to celebrate the success of the bike ride. Tables laden with food and drinks were set up, and live music filled the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and togetherness. Stories of the day's events were shared, laughter echoed, and plans for future initiatives were eagerly discussed. Amidst the celebrations, Jake took a moment to reflect on the journey so far, from the tense confrontation at the Rusty Anchor to the reconciliation and community-building efforts. Every step had brought him closer to the harmony he had long sought. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that his actions had not only changed perceptions, but had also forged lasting bonds within the community. Later that night, as the festivities wound down, Jake stood on the porch of his home, gazing out at the twinkling lights of the neighborhood. Maria joined him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "We've come a long way," she said softly, "and there's still so much more we can do." Jake nodded, the weight of his responsibilities tempered by the support and love surrounding him. "Absolutely. Together, we can keep making a difference." As they stood side by side, the stars began to emerge in the clear night sky, a symbol of hope and endless possibilities. Jake knew that the battles he fought were no longer just his own. They were shared struggles that united the community in their pursuit of understanding and acceptance. With each passing day, he felt more confident in their ability to overcome challenges and build a brighter future for everyone. The weeks following the successful charity bike ride were filled with a renewed sense of purpose within the community. The Rusty Anchor had truly transformed from a place of tension to a beacon of unity. Jake Lawson continued to spearhead initiatives, fostering connections between diverse groups and supporting fellow veterans reintegrating into civilian life. One crisp autumn evening, as Jake was organizing a workshop on conflict resolution at the community center, a familiar tension began to stir. The door swung open, and in walked a new face, Ethan Carter, a young man known for his rebellious streak and skepticism towards community efforts. His presence immediately drew curious glances from the attendees. Ethan approached the podium hesitantly, his eyes meeting Jake's with a mix of defiance and uncertainty. "I heard about what you did at the Rusty Anchor," he began, his voice wavering slightly. "I wasn't part of the bikers, but I've seen how things have changed around here. I want to understand why we need all these programs." Jake smiled warmly, recognizing the opportunity for deeper dialogue. "I'm glad you're here, Ethan. It's important for everyone to share their perspectives so we can continue building a supportive community together." Ethan nodded, taking a seat among the attendees. As the workshop progressed, Jake facilitated open discussions, encouraging honest conversations about prejudice, understanding, and the power of collective action. Ethan's initial reservations began to soften as he listened to stories of resilience and reconciliation. After the session, Ethan approached Jake, a genuine curiosity in his eyes. "I never realized how much impact these efforts could have. I want to get involved, but I'm not sure where to start." Jake placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "That's a great first step, Ethan. We're always looking for passionate individuals to help lead new initiatives. Your fresh perspective could be exactly what we need." Inspired by Jake's encouragement, Ethan agreed to join the planning committee for the next community event, a cultural fair celebrating the diversity and talents of the neighborhood. As they worked together, Ethan began to see the value in fostering understanding and collaboration, gradually shedding his previous skepticism. The day of the cultural fair arrived, and the Rusty Anchor buzzed with excitement. Stalls adorned with colorful decorations showcased various cultures through food, music, and art. Families mingled, sharing traditions and stories, while local artists performed live, their melodies weaving a tapestry of unity. Ethan stood beside Jake, overseeing the smooth running of the event. As he watched children from different backgrounds play together and adults engage in meaningful conversations, a sense of accomplishment filled him. He realized that true change was possible when people came together with open hearts and minds. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the festivities, Jake took a moment to reflect on the journey. From the tense confrontation at the Rusty Anchor to the blossoming community initiatives, every step had reinforced his belief in the power of empathy and resilience. Maria and Lily approached him, their faces radiant with pride. "You did it, Dad," Lily exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "Look how everyone's getting along." Jake nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "We all did it together. This is just the beginning." As the evening winds down, the community gathered around a bonfire, sharing stories and laughter under the starry sky. The Rusty Anchor stood as a symbol of transformation, a place where barriers were broken down and friendships were forged. Jake knew there would always be challenges ahead, but with the support of his community and the lessons learned from past experiences, he felt ready to face whatever came his way. The journey towards unity and understanding was ongoing, but each day brought new opportunities to strengthen the bonds that held them together. The vibrant energy from the cultural fair still lingered in the air as the community center settled into its usual rhythm. Jake Lawson felt a deep sense of accomplishment watching families and friends from diverse backgrounds connect and share their stories. The Rusty Anchor had become more than just a bar. It was now a cornerstone of unity and understanding in the neighborhood. One crisp evening, as Jake was closing up the community center, he noticed a familiar silhouette approaching through the dimly lit parking lot. It was Ethan Carter, his newfound ally, riding his motorcycle with a determined look on his face. As Ethan dismounted, he hesitated for a moment before walking up to Jake. "Jake," Ethan began, his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "There's something you need to see." Jake raised an eyebrow, sensing the seriousness in Ethan's tone. "What is it, Ethan?" Ethan glanced around to ensure they were alone before leaning in closer. "It's about the bike ride. I found something unusual while organizing the event records." Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. "What do you mean?" Ethan handed him a folded piece of paper, marked with the event's logo, and a series of cryptic symbols. "I was sorting through some old files and came across this. It doesn't match anything we've done before. I think it might be a lead or something important." Jake carefully unfolded the paper, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar symbols and a handwritten note at the bottom. "Meet me at midnight at the old lighthouse. Trust no one." A chill ran down Jake's spine. The old lighthouse on the outskirts of Atlanta had been abandoned for years, a relic of the town's past. It was a place shrouded in mystery and local legends, often avoided by the residents. "Ethan, this doesn't sound good," Jake said, his mind racing with possibilities. "Why would someone leave this here?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, but it feels like it could be connected to something bigger. Maybe it's a call for help or a hidden agenda we need to uncover." Jake looked out the window, the moonlight casting long shadows across the yard. He knew venturing into the unknown could be risky, but his instincts told him this was something he couldn't ignore. "All right, we'll go together, but we need to be careful." As midnight approached, Jake and Ethan made their way to the old lighthouse, the path illuminated by the pale glow of the moon. The structure loomed ahead, its once majestic form now weathered and foreboding. The air was thick with anticipation and the distant sound of crashing waves. They approached the entrance cautiously, the wooden door creaking softly as they pushed it open. Inside, the lighthouse was eerily silent, the only light coming from a single lantern hanging in the center of the room. As they stepped closer, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, cloaked in a long coat and wearing a hood that concealed their face. "Who are you?" Jake demanded, his hand instinctively reaching for his concealed weapon. The figure hesitated before speaking, their voice low and filled with urgency. "I'm someone who knows about the true history of this town. There's a secret buried here that could change everything you think you know." Jake exchanged a wary glance with Ethan. "What are you talking about?" Before the figure could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from the upper levels of the lighthouse. Panic surged through Jake as he realized they were not alone. The figure quickly pulled back their hood, revealing a familiar face, Officer Daniels. "Daniels?" Jake exclaimed, confusion and betrayal flashing in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" Officer Daniels stepped forward, his expression grim. "I'm sorry, Jake. I had no choice. There's more at stake than just community projects and charity events. There's a hidden history in this town that some powerful people want to keep buried." Jake's heart pounded as he tried to piece together the fragments of the situation. "What do you mean? What hidden history?" Before Daniels could elaborate, the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, and the door swung open to reveal a group of masked individuals, their intentions clear in their menacing presence. "We can't let you interfere," one of them declared, stepping into the light. "This secret stays hidden, no matter what." Jake and Ethan instinctively moved to protect themselves, while Maria and Lily, who had followed Jake out of concern earlier, arrived at the scene, unaware of the unfolding danger. The atmosphere thickened with tension as allies and adversaries faced off within the confines of the old lighthouse. As the confrontation escalated, Jake knew that the unity and strength of his community would be put to the ultimate test. The battles he had fought before paled in comparison to the challenges that lay ahead, where trust and loyalty would determine the fate of the town he had worked so hard to unite. As the shadows deepened and the stakes grew higher, Jake realized that the true test of his resilience was just beginning. What secrets were hidden in the heart of Atlanta, and how far would he go to protect his community? Jake Lawson stood face to face with Officer Daniels, the masked individuals blocking their escape from the old lighthouse. The tension in the air was palpable as the masked group brandished weapons, their intentions clear. "We can't let you interfere," the leader of the masked group declared, stepping forward with a menacing stance. "This secret stays buried no matter what." Jake glanced at Ethan, Maria, and Lily, realizing the gravity of the situation. "What secret are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the danger. Daniels took a step closer, his expression hardened. "Some truths about this town that certain people want to keep hidden. You've stumbled onto something you shouldn't have." Before the confrontation could escalate further, a loud crash echoed from the upper levels of the lighthouse. The masked group hesitated, their attention diverted. Seizing the moment, Jake lunged forward, tackling one of the masked men to the ground, while Ethan and Tom moved to disarm the others. Maria and Lily, though terrified, found their courage, helping to restrain the assailants. Officer Daniels, seeing his plans unraveling, tried to retreat but was quickly apprehended by Jake. As the dust settled, Jake and his family stood amidst the chaos, the masked individuals subdued and Daniels disarmed. "What's really going on here?" Jake demanded, his eyes locked on Daniels. Daniels sighed, dropping his guard. "The hidden history involves corrupt officials and illegal activities that have been covered up for decades. We were trying to protect it." Jake shook his head, anger and determination evident in his expression. "Protecting lies doesn't protect anyone. People deserve the truth." With the masked group disarmed and Daniels in custody, Jake contacted the authorities to ensure the evidence was handled properly. The revelation about the town's dark secrets sent shockwaves through the community, but it also sparked a renewed sense of unity and resolve. As dawn broke over Atlanta, the sun's rays illuminated the now peaceful old lighthouse. Jake stood with his family and community members, ready to confront the aftermath of the truth being unveiled. The journey towards transparency and justice was just beginning, but with the support of those around him, Jake felt more empowered than ever to lead the charge. The challenges ahead were daunting, but the bonds forged through adversity gave him the strength to face whatever came next. The early morning sun cast a warm glow over Atlanta as Jake Lawson stood outside the rusty anchor, now transformed into a symbol of resilience and unity. The events of the past weeks had brought both turmoil and triumph, but today marked the beginning of a new chapter for the community. Inside the community center, the aftermath of the revelation was being addressed. Authorities had taken Daniels and his accomplices into custody, and an investigation into the town's hidden history was underway. The truth had finally come to light, and with it, a wave of relief and determination swept through the neighborhood. Jake walked through the center, greeted by familiar faces who had become pillars of support. Tom approached him, a sincere smile on his face. "We did it, Jake. Exposing the truth was the right thing to do." Jake nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. It wasn't easy, but together, we made a difference. Maria and Lily joined them, their expressions reflecting pride and hope. "We're so proud of you, Dad," Maria said softly. "You've brought our community closer than ever." As the day progressed, plans for rebuilding and strengthening the community began to take shape. Meetings were held to address the issues uncovered, and initiatives were launched to ensure transparency and accountability. The Rusty Anchor became a hub for these efforts, hosting workshops, support groups, and forums for open dialogue. One afternoon, Jake received a visit from Mayor Thompson, a respected figure in the community who had been instrumental in supporting the recent changes. "Jake, I wanted to personally thank you for your courage and leadership," the mayor began. "Your actions have inspired so many, and it's clear that our town is on the path to a brighter future because of you." Jake felt humbled by the recognition. "Thank you, Mayor. It's been a collective effort. Everyone here played a part in making this happen." As the weeks turned into months, the community flourished. New businesses opened, driven by the trust and collaboration that now defined the neighborhood. Programs supporting veterans, youth engagement initiatives, and cultural exchanges became regular features, fostering a sense of belonging and mutual respect. One evening, as Jake stood on the porch of his home, watching the sunset with Maria and Lily by his side, he reflected on the journey they had undertaken. The challenges they faced had strengthened their bonds and reaffirmed the importance of unity and understanding. "We've come so far," Jake mused, his voice filled with gratitude. "But there's still so much more we can do." Maria squeezed his hand gently. "And we'll keep doing it together. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it as a family and as a community." Lily, now a young woman inspired by her father's resilience, added, "It's amazing to see how one person's courage can ignite change." "I want to continue your legacy, Dad." Jake smiled, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. "You already are, Lily. Every day, you contribute to making our community better." As night fell, the stars twinkled above, a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The Rusty Anchor stood proudly in the heart of the neighborhood, its lights shining as a beacon of hope and unity. Jake knew that the journey was far from over, but with the support of his family and the unwavering spirit of his community, he was ready to embrace whatever the future held. The battles he had fought were no longer just his own. They were shared struggles that had brought everyone closer, forging a community built on trust, respect, and unwavering solidarity. In the quiet moments that followed, Jake felt a deep sense of peace. The past was acknowledged, the present was strong, and the future was bright with promise. Together, they had overcome prejudice and corruption, proving that with courage and unity, even the most daunting challenges could be transformed into opportunities for growth and harmony. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Jake's journey. How did his actions inspire you? Share your feelings and reflections in the comments below, and if you found this story meaningful, please like and share it with others. Join the Elderly Wisdom community as we continue to explore stories of resilience, unity, and hope. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us.